And I think for the most part, there are many who are looking the other way, both in business and in government. We refuse to, and we appreciate the fact that the Prime Minister in exile of East Turkistan makes himself available to us to bring to us the news, the story, firsthand of exactly what is going on and why it's important that all business, all government understand this. Joining me now, Prime Minister Salih Hudayar. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for your time again.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I
appreciate it. First of all, we're just celebrating our nation's independence and how this country is what I think the last vestige left on earth for true freedom. But it seems to me that we are not doing enough about what's happening in East Turkestan.
Absolutely. I mean, America is, I would have to say, the only country left that is truly defending freedom and representing freedom across the world. When you think of the United States, anyone, especially foreigners, when they think of it, that's what comes to their mind. However, unfortunately, the U.S. is not, as you said, it's not doing enough to put an end to the ongoing genocide that the Chinese government is perpetrating against Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples in East Turkestan. It's not, we feel that America is not the same, America that it was 20 years ago, or even a decade ago for that matter.
Now, this is not just the Uyghur population. There are a lot of other populations of people in the region, well, formerly known as East Turkestan. What do the Chinese now call it? The Xinjiang province, I believe.
Yes, the East Turkestan, prior to the Chinese communists occupying it, historically has been always known as East Turkestan, and then the Chinese renamed it to Xinjiang, meaning the new colony or the new territory.
Okay. And it's not just the Uyghur ethnic groups. There are other ethnic groups there who are being oppressed by the communist Chinese.
Yes, there are Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, Tatars, and Mongols, among others, who are being almost equally persecuted by the Chinese government. The Chinese government is essentially waging a genocide against all non-Chinese peoples in East Turkestan.
We're talking with Prime Minister Salih Hudayar, Prime Minister of East Turkestan in exile. Mr. Prime Minister, the United States government has said, okay, we will not buy any products or do business with any country, any organization within any country that uses slave labor. And my understanding is that in the region formerly known as East Turkestan, there's a lot of production going on there of solar panels, and that the Uyghurs and the other ethnic groups are being forced into labor, what would be akin to slave labor, to manufacture these panels. Is this true? Can you confirm this?
Yes, this is indeed happening, unfortunately. Prior to the start of the so-called People's War, which the Chinese government, the operation, the genocide campaign that the Chinese government calls before it started in 2014, the solar production in East Turkestan mounted not even polysilicon solar production mounted not even 9% of global production. However, as the Chinese government engaged in mass internment and genocide, by 2021, it went well over 50% of global production. And there are, videos, there are, data that we found online showing that Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples were being used as, at the very least, forced labor in these facilities to create solar panel products as well as other commodities in other factories.
Tomorrow is the anniversary of the family of Anne Frank going into hiding during the Holocaust in Europe of the Jews. And the what people say out of that is never again, never again. And yet I would like I would like you to detail the fact that we are not living up to never again. And I would like you to explain what it is like for especially women to live in the former East Turkistan region and what can happen to them, both men and women, in that region, what the Chinese government is doing.
Well, never again was a commitment that the international community we vowed, especially after the end of the Holocaust, especially after, having formally created the definition of genocide and creating an international treaty to prevent and punish the crime of genocide since 1948, I believe. However, never again is happening right now in East Turkestan. The Chinese government has millions of people locked up in concentration camps. They sterilized hundreds of thousands of Uyghur and other Turkic women, tore apart over 850,000 children from their families, sending them to state-run orphanages and boarding schools to be raised as, quote, loyal Chinese citizens. You have Chinese officials being sent into the homes of Uyghur and other Turkic peoples where the husbands have been taken into the prisons to essentially sleep with their women, to monitor their activities, to determine their level of, quote, loyalty. And these are being done under, perverted programs called so-called relatives programs. Essentially, every aspect of Uyghur and Turkic life is being strictly monitored and controlled by the Chinese government. And those that the Chinese government deems are untrustworthy or not loyal enough are being sent into these concentration camps where they are being, their DNAs, voice prints, retina scans are being collected. And whenever there's a need for an organ, they're being killed just like that, and their organs are being harvested.
I mean, there is a black market of organs harvested from this region. There are, my understanding is Muslim majority nations, which will, the very wealthy there will purchase these organs because their understanding is this organ is coming from a Muslim, correct?
Yes, the Chinese government oddly, ironically, sells the organs of Uyghur and other Turkic peoples to wealthy Muslims from the Middle East and other places as so-called halal organs, meaning that these people have not engaged in they haven't drank alcohol, they haven't eaten pork, etc. And the most messed up thing from this is that the Muslims themselves, they know what's going on. They know very well what the Chinese government is doing, but they are completely silent. The rest of the world, at least in the Western world, they're speaking out against it as best as they can. But the Muslim world is completely silent, and they are in many ways complicit, deporting their Uyghur and other Turkic populations back, helping, vote in favor of these things at the United Nations. These are all things that the complicit and just buying the organs of warriors that have been killed is just really messed up on another level.
We've been talking with the Prime Minister in exile of East Turkistan, Salih Hudayar, just about the atrocities and the genocide going on there. Mr. Prime Minister, is there a website or something where people can go to get more information or to offer support?
Yes, people can visit us at east-turkistan.net or follow us on social media at ETExile.gov.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, and you're always welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, from there we go to our friend